Donald Trump returned to the White House on Sunday night as speculation swirled over exactly what he has planned on tariffs. The US president has said Canada and Mexico would face 25% levies over the alleged flow of fentanyl across their borders. However, speaking on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said that wasn't quite certain.
He's sort of thinking about right now how exactly he wants to play it with Mexico and Canada, and that is a fluid situation. There are going to be tariffs on Tuesday on Mexico and Canada. Exactly what they are, we're going to leave that for the president and his team to negotiate. And obviously, I'm talking to him all the time to discuss what that's going to be on Tuesday.
Lutnick said that Canada and Mexico had done a reasonable job securing their borders, though he said fentanyl also continued to flow into the US. Last week, Trump had sowed confusion when he floated a possible April 2nd deadline in connection with the tariffs, only to later reaffirm Tuesday as decision day. He also said he would impose an extra 10% tariff on Chinese exports, on top of the 10% he had already set. Whatever happens now, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has vowed a stern response.
We will continue to work to ensure, to do everything we can to make sure that there are no tariffs on Tuesday. But if ever there were tariffs on Tuesday, as we have all seen, as we were ready to do last time, we will have a strong, unequivocal and proportional response as Canadians expect.
Trudeau said the data showed that very little fentanyl had ever entered the US via Canada, with quantities now even further reduced. Meanwhile, Chinese state media reports say Beijing will target US farm goods when it sets out countermeasures to any new tariffs on its exports.
We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer did not mince words on Sunday about the stakes facing Ukraine and Europe at a summit of world leaders in London.
It's time to act, time to step up and lead.
The summit drew world leaders to support Ukraine and its president Volodymyr Zelensky in the fourth year since Russian forces invaded the neighboring country. Leaders hoped to work toward a peace plan that would end the fighting and guarantee future Ukrainian independence.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards.
But overhanging Sunday's summit was Friday's fiery Oval Office face-off that appeared to shred relations between Washington and Kyiv.
You're gambling with World War III.
Years of staunch American support for Ukraine and its fight against a Russian invasion appeared to evaporate when U.S. President Donald Trump, who returned to the White House deeply critical of Washington's support for Kyiv, erupted in anger at Zelensky.
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days.
Rather than offering support for an American ally valiantly resisting an unprovoked attack by its larger neighbor, Trump instead castigated the visiting leader, admonishing him to accept the difficult position his country was in. It ended with the visit cut short, and Trump posting on social media that Ukraine was not ready to make peace. The affair sent shockwaves through American allies and prompted pleased responses from American rivals.
Трамп, он прагматик. Вот это его лозунг «здравый смысл».
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov praised Trump's, quote, common-sense approach. The president of Finland said the only winner in the dispute was Russian leader Vladimir Putin.
At the end of the day, there was only one winner of that exchange, that was Vladimir Putin. Having said all of that, probably a wake-up call. And, the conversations that I've had since in the past 72 hours are pretty much about, let's move on, let's get back on track, let's see what diplomacy can do. And I'm quite convinced that the meeting that we have here in London today is going to give us the first baby steps back to the table.
Our starting point must be to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position now.
Trying to revive hope for peace in Ukraine, Starmer on Sunday unveiled what he called a coalition of the willing, a group of nations willing to put personnel on the line to defend a peace deal if reached.
The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting.
And he announced a $2 billion deal to supply British-made air defense missiles to Ukraine.
I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States.
Trump has upended U.S. policy in the 3-year-old war since he returned to the White House in January, casting doubt on its military and political support for Ukraine and Europe, and ending the isolation of Moscow.
clearly admire President Zelensky. So I'm wondering what you thought when you saw the treatment that he received in the Oval Office on Friday.
I think, first of all, it's important every chance we get to lay out the facts as clearly as possible. In 2014, Russia chose to invade Ukraine, to occupy Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine. For that, they were kicked out of the G7. And in 2022, they chose to violate the existing ceasefire and invaded Ukraine with the intention of taking Kyiv in 3 days and the entire country in 3 weeks. That has failed. Russia continues to try to fight to claim more land in Ukraine, and we could see an end to this war tomorrow if Russia decided to stop its illegal invasion of Ukraine. On Friday in the Oval Office, President Zelensky pointed out in so many words that Vladimir Putin is a liar and a criminal and cannot be trusted to keep his word in any way, shape, or form, because he has demonstrated time and time again that he will break any agreements. I stand with Vladimir Zelensky, and I stand with the people of Ukraine.
In the early hours of Thursday, February 27, 2025, Mr. Hackman and Ms. Arakawa were transported to the office of the medical investigator. An autopsy was performed. Initial findings noted no external trauma to either individual. The manner and cause of death has not been determined. The official results of the autopsy and toxicology reports are pending. Just today, I spoke to Dr. Jarrell, the pathologist from the New Mexico office of the medical investigator. This was at 2:00 p.m. today. She advised that there were several tests that were submitted to be expedited. She revealed to me the following information. Both individuals tested negative for carbon monoxide. An initial interrogation was conducted of Mr. Hackman's pacemaker. This revealed that his last event was recorded on February 17th, 2025. I was advised that a more thorough investigation will be completed.
So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine with their rare earth.
Trump wants rare earths.
Rare earth elements are not actually
rare.
Well, there's been a lot of talk recently about rare earths, and there's also a lot of confusion about the term.
Rare earth minerals are used in almost every technology you can think of. They're present in cell phones, medical devices, wind turbines, weapons, and much more. But what are they, and why are they important? And are they actually rare?
So the term rare earth elements, it refers to 17 chemically similar elements within the lanthanide series.
This is Professor Julie Michelle Klinger, a geographer and senior visiting fellow at the Institute for Human Sciences.
So if you can picture the periodic table, it's that bar at the bottom. Elements 57 to 71, plus scandium and yttrium.
Reuters special correspondent on commodities Eric Onstadt has a bit of the history.
The elements were first discovered by a Swedish miner in 1787 near a village called Ytterby, and that gives two of the elements their names, yttrium and ytterbium. There's another one called promethium, named after the Greek god that supposedly stole fire from the gods to give it to humans. China is by far the dominant producer. They account for 60% of mine production and 90% of processed rare earths. But interestingly, this wasn't always the case. In the 1980s, for instance, the United States was the biggest producer, and Europe had one of the biggest processing plants in the world.
They're often described as the vitamins or the spice of industry because they have enabled our technologies to get smaller and faster and stronger and more resilient.
Elements like lanthanum and cerium, some of the most common rare earths, are used in TVs and lighting, while the application of erbium and yttrium can range from nuclear power to lasers.
There are two broad categories that have really got the spotlight. The first one is military uses, and that can be from night goggles to precision missiles to radar. And of course, that is a very sensitive issue for nations wanting to guard their access to those kind of minerals. The second area is regarding the energy transition. And there are 4 specific rare earths that are used to make super strong permanent magnets that are used in motors for electric vehicles and for wind turbines. So that is key for most nations' zero carbon targets and cutting greenhouse gases.
It's really because of the challenges, the heavy energy and resource and pollution risks that are associated with refining rare earth elements, that production has concentrated historically in so few places.
Processing rare earths often involves the use of solvents, which can produce toxic waste. More environmentally friendly technologies are being developed, but they are not yet widely used.
The other issue is that some rare earth deposits are radioactive. They include uranium and thorium. And so some countries are not interested in having that be mined in their country.
But are they actually rare? Not really.
They are found all over the world, and in terms of the deposits, no, they are not actually rare. What's rare about them is sometimes they're found in very small quantities, and in addition to that, they're mixed with all kinds of other minerals. The difficulty is sometimes extracting each single rare earth from all the other minerals that are involved in the deposit.